Well, welcome to week 5. This is the week in which we study chapter 14. We are about halfway through this term, and now might be a good point to check your grade, make sure that you are at where you want to be. For those individuals who aren't where you'd like to be, those individuals certainly in the F and D range, I encourage you to email me. And let's kind of launch a conversation about what we need to do to make sure that you can pass this class rather than dropping it sometime in a future week. So if you look at chapter 14, you'll find that there are really kind of 4 major sections in the chapter. The first one is about colonialism. We've talked about colonialism in chapter 12, basically Old World Europeans, right, colonizing the New World. This chapter is primarily about outcomes, though 16th century and 17th century outcomes. Another kind of major section is about religious wars. All right, so after the Reformation, there's a good 150 years nearly, of religious wars that culminated in the greatest and the most tragic of European wars of religion, and that's the 30 Years' War. There's also a variety of developments in governance that happen, again, in response to the Reformation and the wars of religion. Section on that. And then finally, there's a section on cultural responses to some of the tensions, some of the conflicts during the 16th and 17th century, and you have a discussion board to write on that. And maybe that's where I will start. So it's very easy and pretty easy to justify the claim that culture is just culture. That is, a movie is just a movie, a pop song is just a pop song, and there's no need to analyze it for some sort of dark, deep, dark reflection of what's going on in society. And I can understand that. Movies entertainment, pop songs entertainment, you can enjoy it that way. But for the past 40 years or so, there have been historians who have seen culture as a text. That is, you read a text to get information. And so they've been reading, we'll say, pop songs, right, or films, or works of art, for what those works say about the society. A good example, a contemporary example, is this kind of the rise of a new young adult subgenre of dystopian stories. Think about novels or films, The Maze Runner, Divergent, The Giver, Young Ones, Ender's Game, or the kind of quintessential one, The Hunger Games. And certainly these are all entertaining films, definitely belong in that dystopian kind of youth subgenre. But they also say something about the preoccupations of Americans and Westerners, and that's global climate change. Think about what these stories are about. They are about youth dealing with horrendous challenges that are the result of the past actions of irresponsible adults. Right? And isn't that what global climate change is all about? Right? We contemporaries are making irresponsible decisions, choices that are going to create a future that youth are going to have to deal with. Right? A whole different kind of world, a whole different kind of climate. So this kind of subgenre of culture, right, novels and films, right, tell us something about, as I said, the preoccupation of contemporaries right now. So culture is not just culture. It is culture, but it also does reflect society. Religious wars. As I said, the 30 Years' War is that last great, most tragic of European wars of religion. 8 million individuals killed. Basically, the whole Roman Empire destroyed. Right? Cities destroyed multiple times. Just a very tragic period of time. There's a saying by the 20th century Catholic theologian Hans Küng, and it goes something like, "There will be no peace among the nations until there is peace among the religions." Again, there will be no peace among the nations until there is peace among the religions. And that has certainly an intuitive sort of attraction to it. It does seem right that if there is religious strife in an area, whether it's in the United States or the Middle East or China, that's going to impact politics as well too. But I think when you read about the 30 Years' War, you may think that maybe that kind of cause effect in that saying is actually reversed. And maybe it makes more sense to talk about that there will be no peace among the religions until there is peace among the nations. And the 30 Years' War does support that. You'll learn about Gustavus Adolphus, right, the Protestant Swedish king during the 17th century. And you'll discover that his army is supported by Catholics. Right? So Catholics supporting Protestants. What you'll learn about the 30 Years' War is that even though it is launched by religious differences, very quickly it really becomes a political war, a political conflict. So there will be no peace among the religions until the nations have brought peace. And then government developments during this period of time as well. Last week I posted some videos into the Week 4 link. These are videos that Carol Symes, one of the authors of our textbook, has created for our edification. And one this week is about rulers, European leaders, and religion. And you might want to look at that one, watch it. In that video she talks about King Henry IV of Nantes. One of the important things about this individual is that one of the ways that he responds to the Reformation and the sorts of wars and conflict that rack France is he says, all right, let's have a little bit more religious tolerance in France. Okay, so Catholics, Protestants, all right, you guys can live together. But then he needs to somehow figure out a way to fuse the people as one. Right? That is, even though you have your religious differences, what's going to bind the people together? And as Carol Symes says, one of those kind of glues is nationalism. And not just nationalism, but nationalism in support of a very strong individual in the form of the king. When most people think about the kings, I think they think about a king who was kind of all-powerful. But that's never been the case, certainly in the West. Kings have always been in conflict with, struggled for power with members of the nobility, members of the aristocracy, those powerful individuals who owned land as well too. And what we see in the 16th and 17th century is this kind of rhetoric and ideology of the all-powerful divine right of kings, trying to consolidate, centralize power in the person of the king. It doesn't mean that he is removing all power from members of the aristocracy, but some of it, and making sure that the king is the top guy in the kingdom. And some of the ways that the king does that is by establishing laws about taxation. Right? Everyone is taxed, and also creating efficient tax collection so nobody can get around taxes. Also through the creation of laws. Kings have created laws, but the idea is the king creates or okays all laws in the kingdom. And in some cases the king is above the law as well too. Another one is creating an administration, government administration. You can imagine in a country of millions, right, that there needs to be a large government administration as well too. And so what we see during this period, 16th, 17th century, kings creating government administration, not only in the capital, right, like a federal kind of government, but also provincial governments, right? So kings now have representatives or governors in the provinces that, of course, support the king or report to the king. So this is an attempt to create sort of absolute sort of power and this kind of bond between people and a strong controlling king. On the last section, the first section actually in the chapter is about colonialism. I won't say a lot about that. You do have a discussion board on colonialism. It's kind of a fun one. Hope you kind of have fun with that. Other than that, have a great week. And as I said at the beginning of the video, if you're struggling with the class, please do get in touch with me and let's chat about how we can make sure that you finish the class with a passing grade. Take care.